And we're live.
All right. Let's rock this point. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man. Hey, everybody. Daniel here from the Truck Insurance Channel, along with Sage. If you haven't checked out his channel, it's pretty awesome. I'll have links below so you can go check that out. Sage, tell us a little bit about you, your background, all that good stuff.
All right. So I'm in like a freight broker.
This channel is pretty awesome. I'll have links below so you can go check that
out.
Sage, tell us a little bit about you, your background, all that good stuff.
All right. So I'm in like a freight broker.
This channel is pretty awesome.
All right. Let me try that again. All right. So you've been basically, I've been a freight broker since the beginning of time. Basically, I started out driving tractor trailer, and after I got out of driving tractor trailer, I went in the Coast Guard. So from there, I went to back to driving tractor trailer again. Right. So I was an owner operator. Drove for like C.H. Robinson for CR England for like 30 days, and then realized, okay, I'm gonna go broke. I got to get out of this mess. That was a lease program. So from there, I went and did bought my own truck, leased on to FedEx Custom Critical, drove for them with a tractor trailer, left there, went to Landstar, and then drove for Landstar basically over the road. And then from there, me and my wife were together in the truck, but she didn't drive. So she became a Landstar agent while I was a driver. So what happened was I basically said, hey, I can't. I'm out of here. So 2008 came around, and I had to make a decision. Right, we were broke. 2008, the recession hit, just like basically we're doing it now. I had about $7 in the bank. I was behind on all my bills, absolutely every single one of them. We were sleeping on a mattress on the floor in a house that we bought for like 30 grand that had black mold and all this other stuff. And I said, okay, I got to make a decision. And the decision was get back in the truck or push my agency, which was the Landstar agency as a freight broker. So the decision that because my wife couldn't get back in the truck again, she was having a difficult time and things like that, we basically decided to go with push the agency. So I pushed the agency, and I mean, dude, look, man, it was me against everybody. Basically, like I said, I had no money. I was getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to start posting loads at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then from there, it was like, okay, where do I kind of go from here? 11 o'clock at night, I'm switching guys. I'm posting loads from C.H. Robinson, Schneider, and all this stuff. Because with the Landstar board, it's a closed system. So Landstar would allow me to basically take loads from the broker boards and put them on the Landstar board so that the Landstar trucks could see those loads. Okay. So I was able to reach out to brokers and freight brokers and say, look, give me an opportunity to move your freight. Give me a chance to move this and yada, yada. And basically $25, $30, $40, $100 at a time just worked my ass off, basically trying to continue to move freight. And we ended up, after a couple of years, we were $1 million agency with Landstar. And I said, all right, I got to make it from here. The system for Landstar, you're paid like a dispatcher. You're paid like 7% of 98% of the line haul. It was just like a dispatcher pay. Right. So I'm like, all right, for the amount of stuff that I'm doing, I've got, customers want me to fly out. They want me to be on site. They want me to do all this stuff. And I'm like, 7% ain't going to cut it. Right. So I basically went to Landstar and explained this, and they said, too bad. And I said, I don't think so, Tim. You can't bill your customer. You have to run it through the system. So I opened up my own freight brokerage in 2012. Yeah. I opened up my own freight brokerage in 2012 and basically been my own freight broker since then. I specialize in over-dimensional freight, open deck, all oversized is kind of where I found my niche. And that allowed me to work,
basically everything.
Quality, not quantity. It's what I kind of did. But I learned, like I said, coming from driving the truck and having a license and doing all this. But it was a lot to learn, man. It wasn't easy. It wasn't given to me. It was something that I basically had to sit down and learn all the aspects of over-dimensional freight so that I could be the best performing for my customer.
Yeah. Being an expert in like one specific thing is like, I think that's the best way to go into business for yourself, right? Trying to be a generalist, that's tough. You got to have really good marketing or, something special. But if you can go find something really specific, become an expert at it, and then like target that, I think like that's, like I could do anything in property and casualty insurance, but I like trucking. I like dealing with truckers. And then more specifically, we help a lot of new ventures. So that's kind of an area that a lot of insurance agents stay away from. So it's, I've kind of like found my home in it, That's
Yeah.
cool though.
And it's like I said, it's one of those things that for me, one you have to know, a little bit of business. So as I went on, I took, some business classes and stuff like that, because I wanted to understand what the hell I was doing. Like I didn't come from somebody. My dad was a truck driver. They never had an LLC or sole proprietor or incorporated or any of that. So I basically had to, and I had to do it. The internet wasn't the internet that it is today. Let's just say back then, but it was still decent. Like I use Internet Truck Stop, and I've had it so long. I'm grandfathered into the most expensive one for $35. They've come to me and they said, "Hey, we're gonna up your price," and I'm like, "Dude, you're not upping my price. I've been here forever. Now, if I cancel, they're gonna up me." But they basically said, "Hey, yeah, you're right. You've been here since we started, just about." But it's kind of knowing where you want to go with your business and pushing yourself to do it. It's hard. It's not easy. But finding a niche, like you said, is important because it allows you to focus on that and go someplace with that. And then from there, if you want to branch off, you can build your business from there. But that focal point allowed me to be, where I am now.
Was it like, I mean, you were already doing the job essentially under Landstar. Were you worried about what was the transition in like going out on your own? Like, were you afraid of, like I was scared to death of leaving the prior agency I worked for before I started this one. And I dragged my feet for a little bit about it. And then finally like push came to shove and it was time to go. Like I had to do my own thing.
Yeah, well, for me, it was a little different because what happened was I had the agency. Like, I was the broker, and then my wife was the Landstar agent, right? So at some point, I was running my direct customer freight down to her to make money, right? So once Landstar came in and said, "Hey, you guys can't do that," I was like, well, why? I'm not the agent. Well, it doesn't matter. You guys are family. Okay. But I at that point, he came to me and he said, "Look, you can be a Landstar agent too, and you can run all your freight through us." And I looked at the numbers, and I think we made $5,000 with Landstar, and I was at $50,000 with my own brokerage. So I'm like, well, I'll see you later, Landstar. Because there are other Landstar agents that will take my freight. So I don't, and I explained this to him. I'm not sticking around. Which would you pick? And they didn't want to hear it. So I basically left and just said, "See you later." So I was at least still doing the Landstar thing as I was, doing my own. I was out there making the calls and moving the freight with my own freight also.
Gotcha. What was like the biggest challenge in initially starting the freight brokerage?
A lot of it was, hang on, let me do this real quick. Basically, the cold calling and trying to get past that gatekeeper. Like, you have to find a way with a freight brokerage to get to the person that you need to talk to, right? Yeah. You have to be able to make that connection and make that deal. And let me see if I can turn this on. Perfect. And now you can see yourself. So to make that, get past that door was the biggest thing. So I had to find a way to get past the gatekeeper. So for me, doing open deck, how do I get these direct customers? So what I asked the drivers to do was take a picture of the load. I said, "Can you do me a favor and take a picture of the load?" And let's say we were hauling construction equipment, right? What I did was once he sent me that picture of the load, I typed up an email stating, "Hey, this is some of the stuff that we move. If this is some of the stuff that you need some pricing on or some quotes on, I deal directly with drivers, and here's a picture of some of the stuff that we moved." And I sent that picture of construction company equipment, and I searched out construction companies. I clickbaited them. I actually had people call me and said, that was pretty good. I thought that was our stuff. And so every time I hauled something, I basically had the driver send me a picture and then reached out to people in that industry saying, hey, this is some of the type of stuff that I move. And that kind of got me past that gatekeeper, because somebody would forward it to somebody. But that in the beginning, that was the hardest thing to do. But once you kind of find a way to get past the gatekeeper, once you kind of search, and all I was doing was searching up emails for on the websites, on the business websites. I just searched up emails. And then once you stuck, a signature, a business email address, it can't just be a Gmail, and a photo of something with a short, quick thing, a sales pitch, I actually got a lot more people responding because it was clickbait with the photo. Right.
Okay.
And right. And that's what I got with email. So next thing you know, somebody's emailed me back saying, wow, that's kind of impressive. Let's, good job. Let's, go ahead and let's quote, can you quote this for me? But that's what I did back then. I mean, the other way I got in a lot of times was, hey, can I speak to your sales department? Salesmen love to talk. I'm not going to ask for the logistics department, because they're going to say, oh yeah, here's his voicemail. They get a million of those calls. But the sales people, they're going to take that call. That's their job. And at that point, I would say, hey, right. So at that point, I'd say, hey, look, I'm in sales also. I'm a freight broker. Do you get an opportunity, or do you ever have to quote the transportation portion of the stuff that you're, building? And a lot of times they'd be like, yeah, because I need to know how much it's going to ship after I give them a quote for how much it's going to be to make it. And I said, well, do me a favor. What do you normally do? Well, we send to my transportation department and I wait. I said, well, just send it to me. Send it to me. I'll quote it for you direct. And if it's and then all I ask is that you send it to your transportation department if it looks like it's a realistic price. And just, just say, hey, you got 3 quotes and I got this one also, where's this guy? And that was another way to get past the gatekeepers. But it was the hardest part about being the freight broker and trying to get in the door is getting past that gatekeeper. So you got to make the phone call to the sales. You got to do something with a photo or some other way to get into the door. And that's pretty much what I did.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that's genius. I've been in all kinds of sales jobs in the past, and it's like gatekeepers and getting to decision makers, that type of thing. That's tough. And I worked for a freight broker for a little bit, and doing those cold calls, and everyone's like, oh yeah, whatever. Oh no, maybe some other time. Email me. Voicemail. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, and that's a lot of time too with the cold call. If you can't get passed into a sales department like I did, like I said, remember, salespeople, that's your job to answer the phone. It's their job to talk. They love to talk. That's what they do if they're any good. If you can and you get a voicemail, you've got to pick something that somebody else is not saying as a freight broker. So many freight brokers is, hi, my name is Sam, and I have access to 10,000 trucks. And they're hearing that all over that, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to basically say something different. And a lot of times what I'll tell people to do is say something that other new freight brokers are not saying. So you have to learn your trade. So do you know the difference between a spot market price and a contracted price? A lot of times what I would do is basically say, hey, my name is Eric. I'm looking to, get a possibility of quoting your freight. Do you have any freight that you're looking to move right now? I understand the difference between a contracted rate and a spot market rate. I'm looking to build, a relationship with you on long term, not just an individual, spot quote type situation. Is that something that, you'd be interested in? If it is, please give me a call. Or I normally tell freight brokers to call carriers first. Okay. Don't just be a load board broker, right? So a lot of times, or I'll tell them to call, and if they can get in the door, let's say you find a carrier that's got 10 trucks, and you say, look, if I can find direct customers, would you be interested in being my first go-to for this customer? What's the carrier going to say? No, I don't want no money. Okay. They're not, right?
Like, what's the lanes and what kind of money are we talking?
Right. And you perfect. Yeah. And let me start making some calls. So now when you call, you've got something to sell, right? So a lot of times you go in there and you say, hey, I've got access to a carrier in your area. You're a carrier that comes to your area, a carrier that's out of here, whatever that is. and you say, hey, they've got about approximately 10 trucks. I would be dealing, this is, guaranteed trucks. If we can establish a proper or establish a rate for it. If this is something that you're actually looking for, I actually have a network of carriers. A lot of times freight brokers go in there and they'll say stuff like, well, I have access to 10,000 trucks. And if that person called me, I'm like, fine, I got 10,000 loads. Right? What are you going to basically, at that point, he's calling your bluff. You're lying. I mean, you have access to him. You're not lying, but he doesn't want the spot market. He wants your relationships with carriers to give him better rates and better service. Anybody can ask for the load board. So that's a lot of times what I tell people to do is to look at it from that aspect. Try to sell a carrier. I'd rather you go to a carrier and say, look, I'm a freight broker. I've got a brokerage. I need to get customers, but I need something to sell. Can I sell your services? Can I do that? And a lot of times if you go in there and you say, look, no, I actually have trucks. They've got 10 trucks. They've got 15 trucks. But if they can't cover it, I do have access to the load boards and things like that. But you're at least coming in with something to sell. And once you can kind of change the mindset that you're not just going in to quote their freight, you're going in to solve their problems. The customer is going to be more thankful that you do that. Like there's times I don't get in the door, but once I'm in the door, they never want to let me go.
Solution selling is always like the most powerful thing.
Correct. One of the best things I've ever heard from a customer was, look, I don't know how much you make, but you're worth it. I don't even care. You know what I mean? But there's times, like I said, because there's whatever I've done, I've gone in there and I've solved problems. And if you solve somebody's problems, they call you back. You give somebody a quote, they don't. But you solve a problem, you get phone calls back.
Man, manufacturing, distributing, whatever, like having products that you produce is like an awesome thing to have. But then logistics is a nightmare. And if that's not something you're like well versed in or have experience in, then any shipper that needs stuff moved, like they're at your mercy, So that's good.
Yeah, and a lot of times they don't realize that if somebody can you can Google this. Anybody can Google this. I think it's a hot tub factory in Colorado, and they tell the story that just to make one hot tub, there needs to be 18 movements, 18 loads from different places, parts from China, parts from Mexico. Parts are coming in, parts are going out. So there's 18 transportation moves to make one hot tub.
That's why broke hot tubs never get fixed.
Exactly. Just buy a new one. You got a better chance, bro. But this is what brokers do. We make all of those 18 connections hopefully seem seamless and smooth. And that's kind of what you're handling.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's great. I had a guy I worked for when I was working for a freight brokerage. He was like, it needs to be one for one. For every shipper you call, you need to call a carrier and build those relationships on both sides, and then you'll be golden. So
and that's what you want. Like a lot of truck drivers, and I'm a truck driver, so you guys can't yell at me for yelling at truck drivers. But a lot of truck drivers don't understand that it's not just me sitting on a phone and calling, a customer and just being that middleman and posting it on the board. Like my best freight will never touch a board. It will never ever see. That is my last resort. Is the load board. I do not want it is. I'm just letting you guys know, and there's going to be people that are going to be like, you're going to get a bunch of emails. That is the minimum wage job opportunity board. It because the freight that's hitting that is basically, I have no idea who you are. You have no idea who I am. So I'm not going to pay you top dollar until we establish some type of relationship, till we know each other. And drivers complain about this, but my top freight, the freight that I'm making my phone calls before I'm putting that on the load board. For your better brokers. Now there's going to be a ton of freight that's just, bottled water and all that stuff. Load board, contract load board. But your better freight, your better, customers, you want your better guys on that. And that's where the spot market, like I said, for me, I rarely use it. Hang on, let me tell you. I'll give you some numbers because everybody's gonna be like, how much does he make? I know. Get logged in here.
Show me the money.
I took a picture. I don't know if I can. How do I show? Can I share screen on your thing? Yeah, I should be able to, right? Can you give me? I can give me permission. Let me do this. Let me.
How do we do this?
Will this go on this? Let me see here. Hang on. Which screen do I go to? I can go to this screen, I think. All right, I'll just call it off. So basically, right now in the last 40, and just so everybody knows that I'm actually, you know, because a lot of people are like, oh, he does it. He's on YouTube all the time. Well, I am on YouTube all the time, because I do have my own channels also. So in the last 45 days, I've made what's 114 plus 37?
You say 114 plus 37?
Yeah. What is that?
114, 37. So that's 153.
153 plus 19 is what? Or 20? What's 153 plus 20? That'd be 173?
172. If you said
172.
19.
So in the last 45 days by myself, I've moved $172,000. And I'm gonna actually show this on my. I'm gonna do a video on my channel, so people can be like, I can tell people to shut the F up. I said in the last 45 days, putting out almost multiple YouTube videos and doing what I did, I've moved $172,000 worth of freight in the last 45 days. And I'm just logging into my factoring and checking for me to know. What do I make? It all depends. I ain't gonna lie, but I might make 10%. I might make 20%. There's loads that, you know, by the time I'm done, I have one customer that pays me by the hour. Basically $100 an hour for as much everything. I have to record phone conversations and everything. And there was one load we did was like 80 hours, and they paid me $100 an hour.
80 hours to book one load, or is that like completing the load? Like
to move a load. Yeah, it was like a 19 axle load. We had to call every county. We had to call permit companies, states, police departments. I had to be on the phone.
Yeah.
Bridge engineer.
Getting paid hourly on that's probably worth it.
Yeah. So at that point, it is like I said. So I mean, somewhere, I don't know. At my peak, when I had a lot of customers, I think I made like $320,000. You know, when I was really rocking and rolling, I've cut back because I've had a customer. You know, I'd rather do other stuff too and still be, you know. So I've cut back on some customers. Maybe I probably make me now moving over dimensional freight. Maybe 200,000.
Yeah,
maybe $200,000 a year right now. 180. That's by myself. And now remember, I niched it. You're not going to make that with van, right? You're not going to make. You're not going to make that with open deck legal flatbed unless you got other people and you're rocking it. You know what I mean? I do this.
Man, we did mostly dry van, some flatbed stuff, and I mean, I was in the office at like 6:30 in the morning, and then I didn't leave till 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Went home. I had my kid was not even 1 yet, and I'd do dinner, get him to bed, and jump right back on the computer till like midnight, 1 a.m. and do it all over the next day. It was not for me. That's why I didn't stay in it that long. It was amazing. I learned so freaking much, dude. Like, I didn't realize how, like, I always say transportation is a beast, and it is. There's a lot to it. But man, I couldn't cut it with that. Like, it was too much. And we moved all kinds of stuff. We had some good like customer relationships, like long-term relationships with some customers. So like, it wasn't like we were on, tiptoeing across eggshells all the time, worrying about losing a customer. But sometimes it was like we would lose money to keep a customer. That kind of sucked. But yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was tough.
Yeah. And somebody asked if I do hot shots 100%. I use hot shots a lot, to be honest, because a lot of the stuff that I move is over dimensional. So one, if you move over dimensional as a hot shot, that's huge. But I do a lot of like the fall off freight. So I move ladders, and handrails, everything that has to, not go on. It has to be taken off, that can be taken off, has to be taken off. Right. So that would all go on hot shot because to me, I don't need, but I pay regular rate. Like I pay good to my drivers, right? And this is why I can't stand brokers. Just so everybody knows, I'm a broker that can't stand brokers. I hate them. But Yeah, I know. I pay for the driver
Paying with insurance agents.
exactly, right? But I pay the driver to be happy when they go in there because they're going into my customer, right? So if they're angry or pissed off because they didn't like the rate, it's going to be the customer's going to can tell the difference. So I look at it as I pay my drivers to go in there and shut up, just shut up. I paid you enough money to shut up and be happy, right? So a lot of time, I mean, but I'm blunt with my drivers. But trust me, when a hot shot's getting $3-4 a mile, they don't complain. They don't complain. They're like, got it. We're rocking and rolling. But if they got a problem, they call me. I handle that problem for them. Now I do way more than I'm supposed to be doing as a freight broker, just so everybody knows. Especially with the nuclear verdicts that are going on nowadays. But that's how I've done it with my carriers. But there's a lot of carriers that I work with that I know. That's why I don't post. Like if I don't post a load, I'm completely different. I'm all hands off. If I've worked with you for a long time, I'm a lot more hands on. So it's just because right now, as a freight broker, and this is where you guys are going to learn and find out that you're being taken advantage of. As a freight broker, you are never in possession of the freight. I cannot take possession of the freight, which means it's not mine. I'm just a middleman. I'm not supposed to basically tell you what to do. I'm just supposed to say, okay, here's the freight. Here's what we've got. What's your price for this? And then whatever price your price is, it's not my job to bash you down. It's just my job to say, okay, I'll reach out to my customer, see if they're willing to pay that. And then I go to my customer and find out if they're willing to pay that. If they're not, then I come back and say, if they're not willing to pay that, they're only willing to pay this. A lot of, I'm supposed to be hands off. And there was just a Supreme Court lawsuit from C.H. Robinson that basically did a nuclear verdict. And there's going to be a lot more nuclear verdicts. So you're going to see a lot more click and goes and a lot more emails from brokers, less phone calls, stuff like that.
Yep. No, on the insurance side, it's getting a little hairy.
Is it?
With those payouts. Yeah, everybody's nervous as can be about it. And, FMCSA is talking about raising the minimum required limit on everybody. It's inevitable. It's going to happen, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, there's a lot of stuff. And if you guys have questions, let me know, because there's a lot of stuff freight brokers do that crosses that line. They're not supposed to do. Like I said, if you're a new carrier, I wouldn't do it. I don't treat the same. But if you're somebody I've worked with or one of my go-to guys, it's different, right? But still, I'm not supposed to be, I'm not in charge of the freight, right? I'm not in charge. I'm not in control. I'm not in possession. I'm just the middleman. Freight travels from the shipper, and then you sign off on it, and you take possession as a carrier. And then once you deliver, the receiver takes possession of it. And those are the three people that are in control of the freight.
Yeah. That gets way complicated, especially on if there's ever issues.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
No, and to basically understand what's going on, and I do most of the talking here too. So if you want to take a drink or do some work, I got this. To understand what's going on with a freight broker, the freight broker's job is to make sure that they're hiring a safe carrier. That's their job. Okay, that's technically what they do. Their job, they go in, they check. They can check 411, they can check Safer, they can check whatever they want. And it's their job to determine if you're a safe carrier or not. They're taking the liability for that. Well, then what you do is you sign a rate confirmation sheet with the broker. We're going to throw out the packet right now, right? So make sure you sign the rate confirmation sheet with the broker. That's one contract, okay?
Legally
the other
binding.
Contract is the bill of lading. The bill of lading is a contract between the shipper and the carrier and the receiver. That's an actual contract. It trumps I probably just got you banned. It trumps my rate con. So if my rate con, let's say you're hauling refrigerated. If my rate con says keep it at 35 degrees, but the bill of lading says keep it at 0, the bill of lading wins. And then you have to call me, and then I have to say, okay, what happened here? And most likely get you more money because you have to run your reefer. Has to work harder, which costs more fuel. But you can't run it. If you then run it at 35, like my Raycon, you will lose. There'll be a claim there because the bill of lading is the contract that's more important than my Raycon. So be advised, if anybody's hauling reefer, whatever the bill of lading says is what you have to do. So if the bill of lading says 0 and they actually meant 35, then you tell them you need another bill of lading. You need another bill of lading that says 35 degrees on there or whatever it might be.
I've run into this a bunch on the claim side, right? With the insurance. Like if there's ever something that doesn't match or line up correctly, even if it's not like Raycon could say one thing, BOL could say another or say the same thing, but what you talk to somebody, the broker about on the phone is different. Just check, always double check. Don't move until stuff's checked.
Right. And like I said, overall, it's always the bill of lading that wins. That's coming from the person selling the goods wins over everybody. So if it's wrong on the bill of lading, you tell them to cross it off and initial it, and then you have them print their name, or you ask for just another bill of lading that says, hey, can I get a bill of lading that says 35 degrees? That way, if something happens on the receiving end and everything, I'm covered. Because it's your business you're running. It's your business, so you got to cover your business. Do whatever you need to do to cover your business.
Right. Yeah, that's super important. Thanks for mentioning that. That's something I run into every once in a while, especially with reefers. Reefer temperatures are off, spoilage, all that. It sucks, man. It's
that's a big thing too. Is like I said, is a freight broker cannot put in a claim unless they've taken possession of the freight as a freight forwarder. So my job as a freight broker is to give the information to the shipper and let the shipper call in the claim. Okay. So like let's say I was renting a house. Well, I can't file a claim on the owner's homeowner's insurance. He has to call it in, right? It's the same logic. So I can't do the claim. Now I can tell the carrier, hey, you just hit something or damaged it. Go ahead and contact your insurance company. I've got to give your information over to the shipper, and the shipper is going to probably call. You might want to give them a heads up, ask them what you need to do on your end, and start that procedure. Because I have to start to hand over the procedure to the to the shipper to file, right? I'm using the shipper, but that's the best thing, At that point, the shipper calls that in, and knows that's where that claim goes. But what, in regards to the reefers and stuff like that, if a broker asks for, hey, I need a breakdown I need you to download your reefer information, I need to do this, don't do anything like that, because you could be setting yourself up for, I'm guilty. You could be setting yourself up for that. Don't do anything unless you've talked to your insurance agent. I don't care what the broker says, because that's what your insurance is for.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what I'm doing.
No, that's what agents are for.
Right.
We don't just policies. We're supposed to be consultants. We're supposed to be a guide, help you out, make sure you do the right things.
Call me. I don't care what the broker says. You just say, look, man, I pay an insurance. I pay my insurance to handle this stuff. I got to call them first and see what they want me to do. That's their job. I pay them for that. Because you are paying them to handle this stuff. Don't just let a broker tell you that, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. No, first thing I need to do is call my insurance guy. I need to call Daniel and say, Daniel, he wants me to download my stuff and give it to him. What should I do? And let Daniel just tell you what to do, or whoever your insurance agent is. Let them don't let a broker bully you in regards. It's not their freight, first of all, and you can just say, hey, is this your freight? Are you taking possession of this freight as a freight broker? Right there, I'm telling you right now, you're going to scare the shit out of them. They're going to be like, oh damn, right? You're going to actually you're going to push that back on them. But I see that all the time. I get there's been other calls that they're like, oh, I downloaded this and I gave to the broker and. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't put yourself, send it to your insurance agent first, or have them tell you how to proceed, because you might have just forced your insurance to pay out a claim because you gave the information to them before you gave it to your insurance.
Yeah. When it comes to the freight, always call your agent. Now, if you're in an accident, someone's hurt, call 911 first. You don't need to call the agent first. Just public service now.
Correct. Yeah, that's something brokers don't handle either. Please call 911 for that situation.
Ran through a church, school. I just ran into a building. I'm not sure if people are alive. Call 911.
Yeah, call 911 and don't say anything until the police officer gets there. Nothing at all. Just wait for the police officer to get there and then let it go from there. I've seen that happen too. I've seen drivers that, my drivers, somebody ran into him from behind, and we were carrying an oversized load, and it was a tank, like not a military tank, but a vest, hold water type tank. Yeah. Hit him so hard, he knocked the tank. We were stopped, knocked the tank off the truck, and it rolled into a ditch. Right? Because what happened, there's wood saddles underneath it. So once the tank got moved forward, the saddles broke, which loosened the straps. And then he had one strap to pull to the passenger side, and that strap pulled it to the passenger side to make sure nothing ever rolled to the driver's side. And off it went. And he gets out of the truck and grabs his phone and hits record and starts talking to the other guy. And the guy's like, yeah, my brakes didn't work. He's like, perfect. Keep talking. Because my guys, so you don't know if the other guy is recording everything you're saying to him at that point, which my driver did. And my driver, went back and said, look, I'll play the tape. He basically said, hey, it was a one consent state, but he wanted to make sure that everything that was said at that point that he said and that the other guy said was recorded to protect him.
Right.
And it was a single state consent. That's the other thing you have to check for. But then like I said, you don't know what's being recorded.
Just in case people don't know what single consent, that means like if there's a recording going on between two parties, only one person has to know about it. It just has to be one of the parties that are like involved in conversation.
Correct. And this was one of those. And he, like I said, he did that. And when the cops came, he said a different story to the cops. And he's like, no, that's not what he told me. Here's the recording. So he's like, oh, he was, backing up or he was doing. He's like, no, I wasn't. He says his brakes failed and he never even, So this is stuff, like I said, and then you send that to your insurance. You say, here you go. Because what you want to do is basically protect yourself as much as possible and give your insurance the win. If you can give them something to let them win where you don't lose money and there's no claim against you, that insurance company, they're going to keep you. They're not going to drop you. You do something like that, next thing you know, you're getting dropped.
Yeah. That's dash cams are getting more and more important. It's saving people big time. And it's going to be a mandate before too long. Just like ELDs, it's coming.
Yeah, the next thing that I think is going to start coming is basically access to brokers of ELDs, because that's kind of what happened with some of these nuclear verdicts that happened. Went to the Supreme Court it went there with AB 5. It's called C.H. Robinson versus Miller. Mm-hmm. And what happened is they're making it so that not only if I look at your carrier and your carrier's got a good record on Safer, well, I can hire you, right? Okay, that's good enough, right? Well, they're now making it that they almost want to make it so that I now have to know who the driver is, and if the driver's good, not just the carrier that you're putting on the load. And
owner operators, yeah.
Right. So it's almost like, okay, you're an owner operator and you've got 6 trucks leased to you, but you're not hauling it, but one of your guys is going to haul it. Well, now I almost have to check the driving record of the guy hauling the freight. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Isn't it the carrier's job to do that? To make sure that they hire good drivers? Well, they're kind of making it so that that's worse.
Worse. That depends on who's talking, what side you're on. Yeah. I mean, open data is becoming a more, it's got progress behind it, right? Like ELD data, dashcam data, all the scores and everything that's already public data from FMCSA. Like it's just, they're doing more and more. And it's like, is it bad? Is it good? Who does it hurt? Who's benefiting? Like, I don't know. It's tough for me because I want insurance rates to go down. And the only way insurance rates go down is like proper liability. Like when people get blamed for things that they shouldn't be blamed for, and lawyers run away with these nuclear verdicts, these big, huge payouts, like that's what's killing insurance. I mean, that's not the only thing, but yeah. I think there should be really clear, easy insight to driver history, their records and stuff. Driver behavior scores are, becoming a bigger thing too, which is tough. They're not perfect yet, but they're developing, right? Like there's several that are like 100-point scales, right? And it's getting above a 90 is ideal, but it's really, really hard. Like you have to tap your brakes because a deer runs out in front of you, like that could hurt your score. And it's like, how do you offset that? Like the driver knew how to apply enough brakes, but it, according to an algorithm, it, is lowering the score. It's like, there's things like that still need more development, but we're getting there.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other stuff that they're now implementing. I'm trying to pull it up as we talk. The Biden-Harris administration announced a new initiative to improve supply chain data flow, right? And what this new initiative basically does with technology is everybody can see everybody that's in this system. So let's say I'm C.H. Robinson and TQL, right? C.H. Robinson, I can see TQL system, and I know when TQL is sending trucks they know when I'm sending trucks out of the port, and everybody can see everybody in this system, which I'm not open to because that makes me a little nervous. So technology is basically making things unbelievably transparent. And I remember hearing this all the time. Everybody's like, oh, we want transparency. We want transparency. Well, you're about to get some transparency, and it's everybody can with geofencing, with GPS, with dash cams, with all the data that's in there. Freight brokers and stuff like that are going to be able to see absolutely everything that's going on. Like I'm going to know it. Let's say I'm with C.H. Robinson. Let's just say, right? I'm not, but let's just pretend. You just took a TQL load. I know you didn't because they're horrible, but let's just pretend. Allegedly. You just took a TQL load in. Now that I'm with C.H. Robinson, I can see you coming in, and I can almost see every other load you've done through TQL and C.H. Robinson. I know which lanes you'd like to run, and I have one of those lanes. I can now call you and say, hey, I got a load going from Atlanta to Indiana. All right. And now I can see that you do those more often than you do other ones. And now I can offer you a rate on that. Now, the bad part is, the bad part is that I know you like these loads, so I might not have to offer you as much money as I might offer somebody else, basically.
Right. That's where those relationships come in key, though. Like
right.
It's pretty critical.
Yeah, and that's where the spot
relationship. You don't have to worry about that as much.
Right, and that's what you want. You kind of want that where you're just calling a broker and saying, "Hey, what do you got?" Or the broker's calling you saying, "This is what I got. You want to take it? Where are you at?" My famous thing. Where you at? Texas. When can you get there? I can be there Friday. All right. I got a load going from here to here to here. And I'll say, what's your price? All right, I need this. All right, I'll call you right back. And I'm calling my customer and be like, hey, one of my regulars, one of my normal guys can be here Friday for this price. Can we make that work? Well, can we ship it then? And a lot of times my customers are going to say, yeah, if it's one of your normal guys, because it's faster. He knows where he's got to go. He knows how to strap it down. He knows the routine. So the loading time goes faster. So my customers like that. And it makes it easier.
All right. I'd love to talk with you all day, but I have one more question before we get off of here.
Right.
My inbox is blowing up right now.
All broker.
What do you see happening with freight market between now and the end of the year?
All right. And you only got a couple minutes? It's going to suck. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, put my channel in the thing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I talk about this all the time. So right now we have so much freight coming into the ports because it takes about 120 days to stop it from coming from China. So even though Walmart and Walmart and Target and all these people canceled stuff, we haven't even reached the cancellations yet. So if you guys check my channel out, I show the ports, I show the container boats, and I show a bunch of that stuff. we have so much freight coming into the East Coast ports that we have no place to put it. I just did a video on it this morning. We have no place to put this freight. So basically what's happening is it's supply and demand is driving the freight rate down. Shippers do not want to pay to move this freight. They don't care. They don't have a place to put it. They're paying warehousing. They're paying employees to babysit this freight. So the last thing they do is want more freight into their distribution centers. So they're going to wait for the rail. Or they're going to say, well, if you're willing to take it, I'm only willing to pay this much. So I don't see that getting fixed for not until next year, second quarter, maybe a little bit in the first quarter. But I don't see you just have to ask yourself, with inflation and everything that's happening, what's your Christmas going to be like this year? How much are you looking to spend this year compared to last year? If it's less, that's bad. And that's a lot of people are saying less. Now, if you have money, there's a lot of sales, but the situation is shippers don't want to move their freight. They're not going to pay. There's no rush to move that freight. There's no demand for that freight. So unless it's a need, people aren't buying it. And that means freight rates are going to go down. And I don't see it kicking off until maybe next March or April, when we start to jump back up again.
What do you think would attribute to the upswing, though? Just the season? Like, I know it's really
what's going to happen is that people are going to get taxes back, and they're going to say, I haven't spent for a long period of time. So you're going to start to, and that's normally what happens. Like your December thing, a lot of stuff comes in, and then January, people are restocking their shelves. There won't be a restock this year as much. And then February, it's very slow. And then March, people start to get their taxes back and things like that. And they start to say, okay, I haven't bought for a long period of time. This wasn't, stuff like that. So unless inflation jumps up by then, tax time is usually when people are going to start spending again. Right. And then when they start buying wants instead of needs.
We see a huge uptick in new ventures in the spring. Everybody getting tax money back, and then they have the funds to go jump out on their own, pay those down payments on insurance policies, and go finance a truck, whatever, that type of thing. Yeah, we see.
Yeah, what's going to save you is those direct contacts, either contracted freight, direct customers, or direct relationships with brokers. That's where I'm going to first. I don't need to post my freight. My carrier, they're jumping on it. So even if they tell me, hey, I can't get there tomorrow, but I can be there Friday, I'll call my customer. You know what I mean? Give me an option, and I'll at least let my customer know and see if we can do it. But it's going to be that type of situation, basically.
Gotcha. Cool, man. Well, my biggest takeaway is, the relationship thing. Build those relationships, whether you're a broker or, a motor carrier. Like, talk to people, get to know them, see what you can put together, network as much as you can.
Absolutely. But yeah, thanks for having me on. And, like I said,
we'll do it again.
Thanks for swinging in.
Yep. All right. Thanks. And check out Sage's channel, everybody. I linked it, and I'll put it in the description too for as soon as I get out of here. And thanks. See y'all later.